Natissa here in the subtropical Florida Gulf Coast, Zone 10, and they say this is the land of flowers, but I say it's the land of bugs. They are everywhere, especially during our spring and summertime. It's scary out there. Tears have been shed. I want to keep gardening, but they make me not want to. Is this you too? Maybe this doesn't have to be so bad. In this video, I want to share with you 10 tips on how I garden with bugs and other creepy things so you can keep gardening too. Tip number 1, learn about the bugs or other creepy things. The bees that buzz all around us are some of our biggest pollinators that give you your fruit and your seeds. Those scary wasps that always seem to be after us, or so it feels, are actually after a lot of the caterpillars that are in our plants and eating our plants. So they're actually helping us. And when I go outside to put all my organic matter into the compost, I am just swarmed by these black flying bugs that are all around. They make me not want to go out there. But I learned that those are black soldier flies, and they lay their larvae into that organic matter that I'm trying to compost, and those larvae really eat down all that organic matter, make the wonderful compost that I put in my garden. When I learn these things and have a better understanding about these bugs, it makes me feel more appreciative. Now, I'm not saying go hug a bug. Let that appreciation make you feel better. This leads us into our next tip. Tip number 2, bug armor. You'll see me a lot wearing these gloves because this makes me feel safe. I don't want a bug to touch me. I don't want to touch a bug. And also, some of these bugs, yes, they do bite or can sting, but this will keep me feeling good and more confident as I go outside into my garden. Wearing tighter clothes. Dare I say I've had experience with this. If you know what a gecko is, if you know what lizards are, the gecko are the night lizards. And I don't mind them, but not up my pant leg. If you have long hair, put it up, because otherwise something's gonna get in there and get tangled up. I've had experience with that too. And not to sound scary or anything, but this is real life. Like I said, some of these bugs out there that are helping us, even though they're creepy, yes, they can bite and sting. And some of us might be allergic to them. And I'm not a doctor, I can't suggest what allergy medication to take, but have that on hand when you're out in the garden. Maybe there's something that you can take out there, even if you don't know what you're allergic to, just to have it, just in case. That will again build your confidence to get out there. Tip number 3, keep your garden maintained. Weedy gardens, overgrown gardens, things running into each other, maybe like me and you just overplant because you want to grow everything. All of this equals too many places for too many bugs to be and too many bugs to breed. Like I said, some of these bugs we don't like, they do help us in the garden, but we also need to help ourselves keep things maintained, and that goes for maybe the level of bugs too, and keeping a maintained garden can help with that. And of course, we have our seasons like I do right now where things get crazy. That's my summertime, but we will get it under control and you will too. Now the next point seems contradicting, but tip number 4, create a habitat. Growing different plants, yes, it's going to attract different bugs, but all those different bugs play a role in nature and in the balance of it. An idea could be what I might call a controlled mess. I do a lot of chop and drop out in the garden, and I like it for the mulch, and it also breaks down and helps build up my sandy soil. But yes, it does attract the bugs, and I've seen snakes out there. So maybe what you can do too, if you don't like the idea of certain critters being in your garden, maybe take that chop and drop, all that cut down plant matter, maybe pile it up away from your garden area. That way you can still have that organic matter on your property, have it break down, and then get it in your garden, and then less bugs and creepiness to deal with. Welcome in the birds. Use bird feeders, bird baths. We all know those birds are eating out of our garden anyways. And also those birds are gonna help eat up some of those bugs you may not like. I even had an experience with a blue jay saving my life, or at least that's what it felt like. Every year I get these large beetles just flying around me, hitting into me. I mean, they literally chase me inside. And I saw a blue jay out in my garden take one of those beetles down, eat it, and seeing that nature happen in front of me actually gave me the courage to go back out there and finish doing what I was doing because sometimes it gets too much. So many things we can do. Sometimes I'll even have certain plants chopped down, as I mentioned with the chop and drop, and let the stem dry out, and it hollows out over time. And I know this sounds creepy, but I've had bees and wasps come and move in. So of course I'm not gonna mess around with that, and I'm very careful when I clean out the garden. But again, these critters that we might struggle with and might creep us out a bit, they are helping us. And if we give them some space to be, well, then that is their space. And with their space, we'll also know where they are so we can stay clear of it. In creating a habitat, how about grow some flowers? Flowers can attract what I call the pretty bugs, like butterflies. They need a home too, and this is a great place for them to get their food and breed and also help pollinate your garden. And I don't think ladybugs are attracted by flowers, but ladybugs are attracted by those nasty little aphids that overtake our plants, suck the juices out, and eventually kill them. But those ladybugs eat those aphids. So lots of good bugs, and thankfully some pretty ones. And don't forget the trap crops. These are plants you might grow intentionally or just leave in the ground, and these attract some of those critters that we don't want to overtake our gardens. And I will do that a lot out there, is leave plants in the ground, and when I see certain critters come in that I can't be having too many of because they're gonna ruin my garden, it will help keep the bad bug count low. Tip number 5, when you work or harvest out in the garden can matter. A time I like to go out there, more specifically, is when it's breezy outside or after a rain. I've noticed a less number of wasps flying around me, and it just makes me feel more comfortable going out there and doing what I need to do. And it feels better in this Florida subtropical heat and humidity, which I'm sure attracts more bugs. Number 6, keep harvesting. The longer plants grow there, the more likely that creepy things will start living there and breeding in there and taking over. This might be a time to ask yourself if maybe you are overplanting. And I know this is something that I do, and partially it's for experimenting and that sort of thing, and only you can make the decision for your garden. But I notice a difference when I do keep harvesting than letting things just sit there. For instance, a lot of the time with my leafy greens, I have mustard I love to grow, and as they get larger, the leaves start to fold, and it's part of how they grow. But when I leave those leaves there in the garden on the plant for too long, and I harvest that leaf and I start to do my examinings, I have found creepy critters in them that I just don't want to deal with, and it makes harvesting very difficult for me. So keep things harvested. I noticed that last season. Tip number 7. As you are harvesting, here are some harvesting tips. Check before you touch. I heavily inspect something that I'm about to harvest to make sure there's nothing sitting in there that I am going to accidentally touch. And yes, it takes longer time for me to get what I need because that is what I need to do. And when I do, I make sure I throw it in soapy water right away, right in the sink. In fact, last season, my husband harvested a bunch of collard greens, and as he was coming into the house with it, I told him, get that in some soapy water in the sink right away, swish it around, and let it sit there. And after he did that, I did go and clean the leaves and checked them very well, and in that sink was a massacre. So those harvesting tips helped me. Tip number 8. Find a bug buddy. Maybe you have a family member, maybe you have a friend that doesn't mind going in there and taking care of some things. Maybe they actually might want to, I don't know. My husband is my bug buddy. He relocates the good bugs and takes care of those bad bugs if I need them to. I know that tip can maybe be a harder one to find, but remember that blue jay story I told you? He was my bug buddy for that day. Tip number 9, have reasons why you grow. I just did a video about this. The more reasons you have why you grow, the more chances you will have to keep on going and growing despite all the bugs and other creepy things. And the last tip, and this is definitely a big one, don't count it out. It is tip number 10. Accept yourself for who you are and accept some of the changes and adjustments you might have to make so that way you can grow too. I will see gardeners harvest confidently, do garden tasks quickly, and not flinch one bit when a bug flies by them. This is not me. I wish it were. I admit I feel very frustrated at myself, and I ain't gonna lie, I have cried. But another quick thought I do think about that also helps is having bugs equals no pesticides. It's worth it, right? It is worth it. It is worth it. The gardening journey may never be perfect and may not always feel good, but hopefully these tips that help me will help you get out in your garden with all these bugs and creepy things too. Be sure to share your tips down below in the comments to help other struggling gardeners because the struggle is real. Thank you for watching and sharing, and don't forget to make a list of reasons why you grow. And as always, I'll be seeing you in the next one.